My stepdad was also very abusive. So, I mean, I was molested by him from the time, from like, I don't know, like 4 or 5 until I was 13.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. But it started with his nephews.
His nephews molested him.
They did it first.
Wow. And they lived with you guys? Or they would just
we
visit?
lived with his family. Me, my mom, my brothers.
My God. So starting at 5, you're being molested by your cousins.
Cousin.
Wow. How much older were they?
Teenagers.
They were teenagers. Mm-hmm. Wow. So they knew what they were doing.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Yeah.
And then your stepdad.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I can't even imagine what that was like.
Yeah. Well, I mean, as a kid, it was hard, trying to figure out if I'm going to be able to rest at night or not, For a long time, I had trouble sleeping. For as long as I can remember, I would have trouble sleeping. I would have night terrors and all kinds of stuff, because things were always being done to me at night. So, as a kid, it was, it was hard, and I've told my mom, I was informing my mom of some things. I wouldn't tell her everything, because he would also threaten my life.
Wow.
He would say things like, if you say something, your mother's going to leave you here with me. What would you do if I killed you right now? Like things like that.
Oh my gosh.
I think one time he said he actually tried to choke me out and was like, "What? Are you scared to die?" And I was like, "No." He's like, "Why?" Because I know where I'm going.
Wow. At that age?
I was 12 when that happened.
So this is our very first video podcast. I've been wanting to do this for years. We've had Testimonies Podcast as an audio podcast for, I don't know, since 2017 or something, 2018. I haven't been super consistent with it, even on the audio side, but I've never done video, and I've always wanted to. So we're just here in our living room, at our dining table, and I'm honored to have Anna Jackson as my very first video guest on Testimonies Podcast, and we're going to try to keep making it video and audio from here on out. So we'll be on YouTube. We'll be cutting it up into reels, putting it on all social media platforms, and you can listen audio on any of your podcast apps, on iTunes and everywhere else. Spotify. Just check it out. We're super stoked. So without further ado, Anna.
Hey, the crowd goes wild.
How you doing?
I'm doing good.
Good?
Yeah, doing really good.
Awesome. You excited?
I'm really excited.
Yeah?
I'm excited for all that the Lord wants to do.
Amen.
Mm-hmm.
Just so you know, this woman is smiling, and she's been in our house for the last 7 days, and their car got robbed this week right in front of our home, and she's still smiling. So she's the real deal. I don't know how she's doing it, but she is. And from day one, she was smiling from the car being robbed. I couldn't believe it, but she was even cracking jokes.
I was. It was kind of crazy. It was kind of crazy. In the beginning, my husband was looking at me like, "What is wrong with you?" It's gonna be okay. And it is, but so it was kind of funny. Not that, your car being taken is funny, but whatever. It was fine for me. So
That's crazy.
Anyway.
Yeah, I have a whole new respect for you.
Thank you.
For both of you. I mean, anyways, cool. Well, Anna, please share with me. So, tell me a little bit about your upbringing. Where are you from?
Mm-hmm.
Where are you born? Tell me a little bit about your family background, your parents.
Yeah. So I am from the great state of California. I grew up in both Northern and Southern California, but mostly Southern California. I have 4 brothers. I am the only girl. So, maybe that's where I get all my toughness from. I don't know. And wait, what was the other question?
What's your family background?
Family background. So my mom, and my father did not raise me together. My mom and my, I guess considered stepfather, raised me along with my 4 brothers. So, because there's 5 of us. And so my family dynamic was actually pretty hard and complex in a sense of my mom was heavily involved in drugs and prostitution, and my stepfather was very, very much into drugs. And so that opened the door for me and my brothers to have some experiences that we would not have had if they had not, been on drugs and all of that stuff. So that being said, I had a very rough background and upbringing up until I would say 13, when my aunt, who is my mother's twin sister, took custody of me and my 4 brothers. So.
Wow, she took custody of all of you.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. Were you guys was the state gonna put you in the foster system or something? Or
they did. They did for a little bit. This had happened twice. So when I was 7, we were put into the foster care system, and back then, the system wasn't really that great. So my mother did a rehabilitation program for 6 weeks. And then if you graduated after that 6 weeks, then you could get your children back. But, 6 weeks isn't long enough to fully, rehabilitate and get yourself in a place where you are able to care for your children the way that they need to. Yeah. Especially for my mom, because she had been on drugs for so long, and just heavily involved in a lot of stuff. So, so the first time was when I was 7, and they put us in a foster care and in different homes, and that was not a good experience.
That was only for 6 weeks?
That was we got put in those homes for maybe a couple of weeks, and then my aunt and my grandmother got us for the rest of the time, for the remaining of the time, until my mom finished the program. Okay. And so my mom finished the program, got us back, and went right back into the same stuff, drugs and prostitution and alcohol and all of the things. And
she was bringing all that in your home, no filter at all.
Oh, no filter at all. I mean,
the prostitution too.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Wow.
I actually would go with my mom on some of her prostitution runs.
Wow.
Sitting in the back seat.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. And so pretending as if I wasn't there and I didn't know what was going on.
As early as how old would she do
I was 7.
Wow. So after that,
yeah,
foster care.
After that foster care thing,
it got worse.
I was like, boom, girl, I got you back.
Oh my
right after.
Oh my God.
I think my aunt, who's my mother's twin sister, it was the hardest thing for her to see us go back with her. Again, she didn't want to let me go. And so
your aunt wasn't a drug addict?
No. Oh my goodness, no. She's
wow.
incredible. There's not enough things that I can say about that woman.
Wow.
But yeah, she wanted to take me then, you know. But my mom wouldn't let her. And so
so your mom wanted the 5 of you. Like, she wanted to raise you and she wanted you at home.
I think at heart she wanted to, but
because some women in that lifestyle, if they had the chance to hand their kids off to their mom or their sister, they would gladly do it so they could just live their life. But why would she want you guys back?
Yeah, I think that now looking back on it, being 37 now, looking back on that, on my childhood, I think my mom may have wanted to or knew that it would be best for us to be with my aunt and my grandmother, with her sister, my grandmother. But I think she couldn't face, for her, the failure of not being the mother that she had always hoped that she would be. And I think my mom spent a lot of her younger years running from what she didn't want to become. Like, I think there was a lot of things that my grandmother, God bless her, you know, she's loves the Lord, but she was hard disciplinarian, you know, so it was like you had to get good grades, you had to, you know, do all the things and be great at whatever you do, and not that's not a bad thing to want for your child, but I think that there was another layer of that, being that you know, my mom, you know, it's a black kid, you know, growing up, and so, you know, my grandma wanted the best for her children, and she didn't want anything to get in the way of them being their very best. And so you know, it was hard in that sense, growing up in a home where, you know, you get some nurturing from, you know, from mom, but not a whole lot, because it was, you know, you got to go to school, you got to get good grades, you have to do this, you have to do that. And if, you know, you didn't do that, then, you know, there were some consequences to those things. And so I think my mom, I think she might have taken that that harsh disciplinarian as my grandmother not loving her enough, and so or loving her as much as she loved others. Like, it was just this weird, I think, twisted lie, you know. But in actuality, my grandma just wanted the best. And so I think my mom, with her kids, with us, me and my brothers, I think she made this vow, if you will, that she would not be like her mother with us. And so I think with the struggle of keeping us and letting us go, it was this, oh no, like I am a failure. If I let my kids go, then I have failed.
Right.
And so I think it was more of that than it was, you know, letting my kids go. You know, because my mom loved us, you know, but she had a lot of stuff that she needed healing from, and, you know, and so she wasn't able to be the mother that she needed to be for her children. But I just think that she couldn't face that I'm not able to be the mother that my kids need. Wow. So.
And you never met your dad?
So yes, I met my dad. My dad, I remember being around him when I was like 2. Okay. And I didn't see him again until I was like 7.
Okay.
And then I didn't see him again after that until I was 17.
Wow.
And I didn't see him again after that until I was like 24.
Wow.
And
when you see him, it's just like one time.
It's one time. Comes, we see each other, and then disappears.
Wow.
Mm-hmm. And so, but my dad was also in drugs and in and out of prison, a lot of my life. And so that partially had something to do with him being in and out.
Yeah.
And then the other part, I just think my dad, because there's chunks of time where he was not on drugs. But I think my dad, kind of similar to my mom, of this failure thing of not being what my kids need me to be. So I'm just gonna
not show up, just distance myself.
Yeah.
And then your stepdad, he was on drugs, and he was perfectly fine with your mom being in prostitution.
Oh yeah, well.
Was he pimping her?
He's I think so. As a kid, I never saw him like pimp her.
Yeah.
But now looking back at it, definitely. I believe that there were moments. Now, my stepdad was also very abusive. So, I mean, I was molested by him from the time, from like 5.
Wow.
4 or 5 until I was 13.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. But it started with his nephews.
His nephews molested him.
Mm-hmm. They did it first.
Wow.
And
they lived with you guys, or they would? So
we lived with his family. Me, my mom, my brothers.
So how many kids were in this house?
Oh, there was tons of kids in and out of the house. I mean, it was like,
oh my gosh.
Wow. It was like, I don't know, easily 20 to 30 people in and out of the house all the time. Oh yeah, definitely.
A little house.
Kind of like medium-sized house.
Wow.
But
sorry, all this up until 7, is this SF or is this SoCal? Where is this?
A little bit of both. So his family is all in Northern California.
Okay.
And my mom's family is all in. I mean, most of his family is in Northern California. Some of his family is in Southern California, and my mom's family, immediate family, is in Southern California. So
you were just bouncing back.
We're bouncing back and forth. I mean, we would live in San Francisco 1 minute, and then we would be living in Las Vegas. We lived in Vegas for a minute, and then moved back to Moreno Valley, and then moved back to LA, and then moved back to Long Beach. I mean, we were hopping around all the time.
With the whole group.
The whole group. Me and my 4 brothers just
wow.
Boom, 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 boom. Anywhere.
That's
and
wild.
Everywhere. Mm-hmm. We never had.
And your aunt and your grandma stayed put in one place, or they moved?
Oh yeah. Stayed
put. Where were they?
In Moreno Valley.
Moreno Valley, okay.
Mm-hmm.
So that was, Moreno Valley might have been a more safer place for you because you could visit them.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Moreno Valley was my safe place for a long time.
Wow.
Because that's where my grandmother and my aunt was.
Wow. And
so, and I knew that, if I could get to them, everything would be fine.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
My God. So starting at 5, you're being molested by your cousins.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. How much older were they?
Teenagers.
They were teenagers.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. So they knew what they were doing.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Yeah.
And then your stepdad.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I can't even imagine what that was like.
Yeah. Well, I mean, as a kid, it was hard, trying to figure out if I'm going to be able to rest at night or not, For a long time, I had trouble sleeping. For as long as I can remember, I would have trouble sleeping. I would have night terrors and all kinds of stuff, because things were always being done to me at night. So, as a kid, it was, it was hard, and I've told my mom, I was informing my mom of some things. I mean, I wouldn't tell her everything, because he would also threaten my life.
Wow.
He would say things like, if you say something, your mother's going to leave you here with me. What would you do if I killed you right now? Like things like that.
Oh my gosh.
I think one time he said he actually tried to like choke me out and was like, "What? Are you scared to die?" And I was like, "No." He's like, "Why?" Because I know where I'm going.
Wow. At that age?
I was 12 when that happened. I don't even know. I was like, God, you're God. Like, you know me, Lord. Because to be able at 12 to have confidence and say.
And would your cousins threaten you too?
No. They would just do whatever they...
So did you tell your mom about your cousins at least?
Yeah, I told my mom about my cousins.
Do anything?
Oh yeah, she went off. She went through the roof. She cussed them out, did the whole thing.
Yeah.
But then we were always around them.
Yeah. They were still there.
They were still there. And my mom was heavily
on drugs.
So when she would come out of it, it was my daughter, But then she would be right back on another high, and so.
Yeah, and then that's when they could take advantage of you.
Yeah, it defeat the purpose, Right. And the same thing with my stepfather. My mother knew, she had some knowledge of, him molesting me.
Wow.
But there would be moments where I would notice, and this is hard to say, not for me, but like maybe hard for others to hear, but there would be moments where I would notice my mom being jealous even.
Whoa.
And I remember as a kid looking at her like, what? Why? I need you to save me from this man.
Wow.
I don't want this.
Yeah.
I do not want this.
Yeah.
I want to get out.
Yeah.
I want to get out of here. And I just remember thinking like, God, I gotta get out of here. I don't know how we're gonna do it, but I gotta get out of here. I can't keep doing it. Yeah. So when I was 13, turning 13, my stepfather went to jail. Happiest day of my life.
Wow.
Happiest day of my life. He went to jail for possession, and I was like, praise God.
Wow.
What I mean? There was a lot of, and there's a lot of things that I'm not saying, but because it's a lot, like it's,
yeah.
I could write a book. But, there was a lot of moments where my mom would end up in jail for possession and prostitution. And so this time around, for him to go to jail for possession, I was like, oh, yes, I'm left with my mom and not him,
Wow.
Because my mom would go to jail and I would be left at home with him. Scariest thing ever. And so...
What was the longest time your mom was in jail for?
Oh, man. My mom was in jail, I think, for like 2 or 3 days.
Oh, okay. So a few days at a time. Not like days. Months or years.
No, thank God. I don't know if I could have made it.
Wow.
So it was a couple of days.
So when he got, when he got arrested at 13, was it just a few days as well? Or?
When he got arrested when I was 13, turning 13, it was a while. It was a little while. It was a few months.
Okay.
Which is great for me.
Wow.
And so anyway,
And was he physically abusive too?
Oh, yeah.
And to your brothers as well?
He was very physically abusive to my brothers.
Wow.
To two in particular. Very, 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 very physically abusive.
But to your mom too?
There were moments, yeah.
Wow.
My mom, I don't know what I was thinking, but there was one time when I was 12, he, hit my mom. And I was like, something in me snapped. And I'm like, I'm going to get you, my mom, And, I didn't really do anything. I was going to hit him, and he noticed that I was going to hit him. And so he charged after me. But his family was there, and they stopped him.
Wow.
From charging after me. But I think at that age, at 12, I was tired of going through the abuse.
Yeah.
And,
You're starting to stand up for yourself. And you were stronger.
Yeah.
So you could. You were a child.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Wow.
And,
so at 7, you actually go into foster care.
Mm-hmm.
And, like, CPS isn't, like, keeping tabs, like, checking on you guys every 6 months, or... checking on your mom, see if she's still an addict. Like...
I say this with all respect, but there are things about the system that's kind of a joke. So, they don't really check up on you. And I will say, back then, when I was 7, we had 2 social workers that were amazing. And this is not everybody's social worker, though. This is not everybody's story. But they searched and searched and searched for us when we ended up disappearing again. And then they found us when I was 13, But, so it took a long time to find us.
Disappearing? As in, like, what, you moved? Or?
We moved. So when we moved to Vegas when I was 7. So... That's partly why
you moved, to get away from CPS.
Why we kept hopping around to get away.
See.
So there was a lot of loopholes of how you could get out of stuff. If we're not in the state. Yeah, it makes sense.
From NorCal to SoCal to Vegas, those are totally different jurisdictions.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And you can't do anything,
right.
If a case is in another jurisdiction, there's nothing you can do.
Yeah.
And it's completely up to that jurisdiction.
Right.
And so they can try to, catch you, like if the kids are not going to school or things like that. But, they would just pick us up and we would go somewhere else.
Dang.
Mm-hmm. So, and my mom, obviously they were getting money from the system for us kids,
Right.
But
so she never married your stepdad. She stayed
no.
as a single mom so that she can get the benefits.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah. They never married, which thank God. But they never married, and so that's how they were able to do that. But when we weren't getting money from the system, we panhandled. Us kids, me and my brother.
She would make you guys panhandle.
Oh yeah. So.
So you would sit in front of a store.
My mom would sit in front of the store with my little brother, my youngest brother.
Wow. In
a basket, and she would send me and my other brother out to ask for money. So,
wow.
Yeah, we would go and just panhandle and ask people for money. And I still remember the line. That's how much.
What was the line?
Excuse me, miss, if it was a woman, or excuse me, sir, could you please spare some change so me and my brothers can get something to eat?
Wow.
And that was the line. That's how often we said it. I'm 37 and I still remember what we said. It's crazy.
Wow. That's so messed up that she did that.
Yeah, so we would go out and do this.
And that's when the system was not paying.
That's when we ran out of money. But we ran out of money because they had a drug problem.
Right.
And so all the money was going to the drugs. We get a little bit of food for us kids and whatever, but then the rest would go to the habit. And so then when there was no money, and we didn't have any food, what were we going to do, And so we would go out and panhandle and ask people for money. And this happened all the time. There was times where me and my brother, we could get hotel vouchers. And so we would get a hotel voucher, and there were moments where my mom and their dad would stay up in the hotel with our younger brothers and send me and my brother, the oldest out of the boys, to go ask for money, panhandle, and we would. And It was a lot of that. I mean, there was moments where we couldn't get a hotel voucher, and we would sleep in cars, or we would sleep in vacant buildings. I mean, I've slept under a freeway pass in a cardboard box with me and my brothers. Mm-hmm.
Whoa. Mm-hmm. So you guys were all homeless?
Oh yeah.
How long did you experience homelessness for?
Oh, the whole time, on and off. Sometimes we'd be in a hotel, and then other times we'd be in a shelter, and then other times we'd be in the car, and then other times the freeway.
Wow. Do you remember what the longest period was where you experienced that? Like a week, a month?
I mean, you could only get a hotel voucher for about a week, maybe, at most.
Yeah.
But then after that wears off, you have the shelters, and the shelters aren't a good place for kids.
Terrible.
They're horrible for kids.
Yeah.
And
then you're right in the heart of like Skid Row, places like that where you you do not want to be.
No, me and my brothers would get sick a lot being in the shelters. So then we would sleep in the car, and sometimes we would stay with his family. My mom's boyfriend. We would stay with his family, but when we would stay with his family, they would steal my mother's welfare checks. Mm-hmm. Telling you, it's crazy, Josh.
Wow.
That's why I'm so gangster, Josh.
That
That's why I'm so
is
gangster.
good. Stealing welfare checks.
It was still my mom's welfare checks.
How hood could you get?
And then my mom figured it out.
Dang.
Yeah, and then my mom figured it out, and so she started trying to get to the welfare office to pick up her check from the welfare office instead of having it mailed to the address, because they would just take them.
Wow.
And so there was this one time, my mom was like, "Okay, we're gonna go pick up mommy's check. You can't say anything on it, because if you say something, they're gonna take it. You can't say anything, and not even if they offer, you can't eat nothing. You cannot say anything."
Who's gonna take it?
My stepfather's family. This is his family. So you can't say anything. They'll take it. So I said, "Okay, Mom." We go. We pick up her check. We come to Now this was the day that the welfare check was supposed to get to the house. Like they knew.
Oh, they knew
the days that she got her welfare.
They were
check.
stealing it constantly. Though.
Yeah.
Dang.
And so they knew that today was the day. But my mom called the welfare people and told them, "Hey, don't send the check. There's been some issues. I'm gonna come to the office and pick it up." So she takes me with her. We go to the office to pick it up. And we get back to the house where we're staying with all his family. And they did exactly what she said they were going to do. They were going to ask me, "Hey, I'll give you some candy. Where did you guys go?"
Wow.
Mm-hmm. And I was like, "We didn't go anywhere. We just went for a walk." "Where did you guys go?" "I'll give you." "Are you telling the truth? Don't lie, okay? Because I'll give you anything." I was like, "No. This is my mom. I'm not going to tell my mom, And
wow.
The next thing I know, I am in the house, and next thing I know, I walk out to them beating my mom.
What?
Beating my mom in front of me. It was the most terrific thing that I could have ever seen or imagined. And they're beating her, and I am screaming to the top of my lungs.
What?
And the whole family is beating her. Because
they started to live off of it. They were...
Yeah. I don't even like to call my stepfather because he wasn't a father,
Yeah.
Extremely abusive and all the things. So, but my brother's father is what I'll say. My brother's father, his brother, who we stayed with, because they didn't receive the check, told all of his kids to jump my mom.
Wow.
I mean, this dude was like, he was like mafia, if you will.
Wow.
So if he would talk about God in one moment, and then the next moment, if you cross him, that was it.
Wow.
Even his kids. He would beat his kids too.
Wow.
And so telling his children to, jump my mom it was nothing for them, to do this.
Wow.
And they beat her in front of me. We packed
And
up our stuff.
And your brothers didn't do anything?
Oh no, my brothers started to fight them.
Wow.
My little brothers started to fight them. So they
they
had
were
to
bigger.
stop.
They were older.
Oh, they were grown. They were like 18 and up.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Oh, my gosh.
And so my brothers, my little brother, I was only like 7 or 8. Yeah. So my brothers.
You're the oldest?
Oh yeah, I'm the oldest. So you see
they
these
were
little
4
guys.
or 3.
Yeah, they're trying to
get.
Yeah. And so then they had to stop.
Because they didn't want to beat up the
kids. Yeah. And so they try to pull us kids away so that they can just do what they need to jump my mom. It was insane. And so they were.
And your stepdad didn't do anything.
He tried to do something, but they beat him too.
They did.
Oh yeah. Because they wanted the money.
Did you guys move out, or you just stayed there?
We moved out later that night.
That night, okay.
Mm-hmm. We moved out later that night and got into a hotel. But we stayed with them for a long time, when I was, younger. And this is what would happen. I mean, their houses always got raided.
By the police?
Yeah. And then we would stay with them, live with them, and we would go out, to panhandle, get money, whatever, and we would come back to an empty house. They would move out of the house.
Because the police were after them.
For whatever reason, but they didn't let us know. And so we would just come back to an empty house.
Wow.
Woke up that morning to everybody being there and would leave. They put locks on the refrigerator doors so we couldn't get the food out of the fridge.
That's ghetto. Oh my god.
It's so crazy.
That is crazy.
Like a literal lock, but yeah.
Oh my god.
So if that gives like a picture of like, this was my childhood.
This is hell. Hell on earth.
This is my childhood.
So at 7, at 8, at 9, you're already very smart. I mean, especially going through all that.
Oh, yeah.
You're street smart. You're aware of everything going on.
Mm-hmm.
Why didn't you, tell your teachers at school? Why didn't you, cry out for help and be like, hey, they took me away from my mom once. Could they do it again, please? Could you please get me out of here?
I think I love my mom.
Okay.
I
so
love
you
my
still
mom. I think,
loved and honored her.
Yeah. Oh, very much so.
Okay.
I honored my mom. I love my mom. And
so you didn't want to get away from her. You wanted to get away from the stepdad.
I wanted to get ready from the hell of our life.
Sure.
And my brothers too. I wanted to get them out. But I think that I would have. We weren't in school long enough. My mom was always taking us out of school.
Wow.
My mom took us out of school so much, I don't remember if I completed elementary school or not.
Whoa.
That's how much she took us out.
Wow.
I do not remember
completing entire years of school.
I don't remember anything from 3rd to 5th grade. I don't remember. I have no recollection of those grades.
Wow. That's crazy.
Mm-hmm. I don't remember. I can only remember kindergarten and 1st grade. After that, actually 2nd to 5th, yeah. After 1st grade, I don't remember.
Well, it makes sense because second is when you're 7.
Mm-hmm.
So that's when you started moving a lot.
Moving a lot, yeah.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So, but you said something really interesting. You said that at 12, when your brother's dad choked you, you said, "I know where I'm going."
Mm-hmm.
How did you have that kind of assurance? Did you have any kind of upbringing in Jesus and God and church?
Well, yeah, so
throughout all this craziness?
So I mentioned earlier, my grandma loves the Lord. Okay, loves the Lord, full unbeliever. And with the times that I did live with my grandmother, I was around my grandmother. I remember church. I remember listening to gospel music. I remember the feeling that I felt at that age. I think I was, I don't know, maybe 5.
So there were other moments besides that 6-week time that you were taken out, the foster care system took you out of your family. There were other times you were with your grandma.
Yeah, when I was younger, when I was, like 4 or 5.
Okay.
I was still with my mom, but I wasn't living with my grandmother, but we would go visit my grandmother.
Okay.
And so I remember being with my grandmother and going to church with my grandmother.
Okay.
And listening to gospel music at church and seeing the choir. And I just remember, like, there was this one Sunday with my grandmother, and this happened multiple times when I would go with my grandmother to church, but I was standing up in, I think, the front aisle, and the choir came in and it got onto the stage, and, I saw them worshiping the Lord. And I remember this moment of like, wow, God, that's what I want to do.
Wow.
I knew.
That's wild. At 5?
At 5. I was like,
wow.
That's what I want to do. And I remember all I can remember is them being in white robes and seeing this bright light.
Wow.
And I just was drawn to it. I was so happy.
Wow.
And so just filled with joy. And I remember that moment and thinking, I could do this for the rest of my life.
Wow. That's crazy.
I could do this for the rest of my life. And it's interesting because, I have been singing since I could talk. My grandma said I think I was like 1 or 2, and one of my aunts worked at Target, and I got on a microphone, and she said, you just started singing and dancing. And I always knew when the radio was playing what artist was singing, like instruments, all that. I just always knew.
Yeah.
And so I was already a very musical kid.
Yeah.
But in church, it was like I wanted to devote my life in song to the Lord. And I knew that.
Wow.
I just knew.
Wow.
And so I was very confident at a young age of who I was in Christ.
Wow.
Even though I didn't grow up in the church. Like, my mom didn't raise me up in the church.
Yeah.
But there was these moments that I had, like that one, where I really, now looking back at it, I know that it was an encounter with the Lord.
Wow. But you didn't have an understanding.
I had no understanding of any of that. Yeah.
The gospel or theology or anything. But you knew, just being there, this is what I'm created to do. This is who I am.
Yeah.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
Probably you being in such a dark daily situation, when you see light and you see purity, and a child knows like truth and purity. You have incredible discernment as a child. It probably made you, I don't know, it made you feel like, wow, this is light, this is truth, this is different, this is, you feel like that could be a reason. There was just such a huge contrast
Well,
to what you were living in?
possibly. But the other thing is, my great-grandmother and my grandmother were praying for me.
Wow. Well,
They prayed for me.
You had a great-grandmother alive, too.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Yeah.
And was your aunt a believer, too?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow.
So my grandfather was not a believer, and my grandmother was.
Okay.
And so, or is, I'm sorry, she's still here. So my grandfather wasn't, my grandmother is. And so, my aunts and my mom, like, they grew up in this environment where dad didn't go to church, but mom did, you know.
Right.
And so, it's very like, you know, like, do we believe in the Lord or do we not? Do we go to church or do we not? You know, they, you know, grew up in that kind of tug of war, you know, if you will. And so, so my grandmother, she raised her kids. They went to church. She taught them how to pray. And so, yeah, they all
had
knew
that
the Lord.
foundation.
They all had that foundation, even though my grandfather was not.
But one chose to rebel and one chose to follow.
Yeah. Wow. That's exactly what happened, you know.
Wow.
My grandmother had 5 kids too. So she had more than that, but she had a lot of loss. And so, yeah, the you had rebellion, had some who rebelled, and then you had some who didn't.
Wow.
And my mom's twin sister, my aunt, was the one who did it.
Wow.
You know. And so, the other thing is too, even though we were out in the streets and, you know, panhandling and going through abuse and all of the things, my mom would always tell me to pray. She would say, Anna, you have to pray because I'm not strong enough to pray.
Wow.
And she would tell me all the time,
Wow.
Anna, you have to pray because I'm not strong enough to pray.
Wow.
And so I always prayed. I was always praying.
Wow.
I was always praying. I did not know. I mean, I know now, but did not know that was establishing this, like, intercessor.
Wow.
You know, one who comes and just sits and speaks to God.
Wow.
About everything.
Wow.
I mean, my prayers to the Lord at that age were so vast, you know. Sometimes it was, God, make us rich, or because that'll fix everything, you know.
Yeah.
Or, Lord, I need you, or it just it varied from so many different things, you know. And
did you feel like you had a genuine relationship with God or connection, or did you feel His presence, or was it just kind of throwing it out there like, God, please, you know?
I mean, sometimes I felt like I was throwing it out there. Other times I felt His presence. But, you know, God is so faithful. I think there was juvenile things that I would pray for. God, let my mom win, you know, on the slot machine tonight when we lived in Vegas. And she would.
You'd be like, dang,
prayer
works.
I was like, oh my gosh. Lord, you heard me.
Wow.
You know, so I think there was these moments where the Lord would even answer my, you know, like, obviously, I mean, don't go praying to win the lotto. But I'm just saying, for me, you know, it was the Lord's way, I feel like, for me, that He showed me Himself.
Yeah.
You know, and then there was other things that would happen. Like, I truly believe that there have been a couple of moments where I've seen an angel. Like, there would be these moments where, for example, this one time, this family, they came out and we had our basket, you know, we had been panhandling, all the things. And this family was like, hey, we want to pray with you, and, you know, whatever, you know. And they're praying with us, and while they're praying with us, this guy, he comes up to me, And I open my eyes, and he looks at me and smiles and drops $100 in the basket.
Whoa.
And I promise you, by the time he dropped the $100 in the basket, I looked at him again. I closed my eyes, amen, opened my eyes back up, he was gone. Nowhere to be found.
Whoa.
Nowhere to be found. Like, it wasn't like I closed my eyes for like 5 minutes and then no. It was like I closed my eyes for like 5 seconds, said amen, opened my eyes, and he was gone. He was just right in front of me, he was gone.
Wow.
It was crazy. And then there was another moment where this woman, I'm walking down the street or something with my mom, and this lady comes up to us and, encourages my mom, encourages me. And we're like, yeah, And she just stands and looks at me and smiles. And I kid you not, we turned our head for a minute and turned our head back around, and she was gone. She was just standing in front of us, she was gone.
Wow.
And so there was these moments of things that would happen that were supernatural.
Wow.
Where it was like, okay, like, this is the Lord. It has to be. There's no other explanation for it. And so I think at 12, being faced with this very dark situation, I just knew. There was just a knowing that if this man decides to end my life tonight, God has me.
Wow.
And he knows me. And I know that God knows me because we've had time together.
Wow. That's profound. That's profound. So, we haven't gotten to your full, transformation story yet, but, do you feel like already at some point in your childhood you had given your life to the Lord and were actually, saved and,
yeah, it's so interesting because I think, later in my teens, because I just didn't understand, I had went up for the salvation call quite a few times.
Yeah.
I was always going to the altar.
Yeah.
And God, he meets us in that,
Yeah.
But before that moment, I honestly, to be honest with you, I honestly think I got saved when I was 4 or 5.
Yeah.
I really do.
Yeah.
I keep thinking back to that encounter that I had with the Lord when I was at that age watching the choir,
Yeah.
And I really think at that moment I had gave my life to Christ.
Yeah.
Because there was never a moment in my life where it was this oh, I'm saved, you know?
Right.
Because I felt like I always knew him.
Right.
I always felt well, I know God.
Sure.
I don't feel like I'm not walking with him.
You're lost.
Yeah, and I never felt like I was lost.
Yeah.
And so I think 4 or 5 was when I really gave my life to the Lord. And I think everything after that, the struggle of, life, figuring out who I was and,
right.
and what my identity, what my identity was and what my identity was in, that whole journey. There was all of that, but at the core, I always knew the Lord.
Wow. Yeah, because when you boil it down to the essence of what salvation is, it's having genuine faith in Jesus as your Lord and Savior and having genuine repentance, and a 4 or 5-year-old can have that. They might not be able to process it.
Mm-hmm.
They might not be able to explain it to you verbally or even in their minds. They can't. But you can know, and have a genuine encounter. That's fascinating.
Yeah.
Okay, so then what happens when you're 13? How is it that you go with your aunt?
So, 13, he gets put in jail.
Okay.
Having this moment, but I'm conflicted as well in this moment because my mom is so sad that he's gone.
Mm-hmm. You're happy.
And I'm happy but I'm also like, well, should I be sad?
Mm.
And I also blamed myself for what happened to me from him. So I'm like conflicted.
Wow.
Should I be happy? Should I be sad? Is it my fault? Did I do something? You know?
Yeah.
And so I'm going through all of these things. He's gone. My mom's left with me and my brothers. And we end up meeting this pastor. And real cool dude, has a church downtown San Francisco. And he's like, hey, him and his wife, they have 2 kids. Like, why don't you guys come stay at the church? We have another guy living at the church. Why don't you guys come to the church?
Wow.
Like, cool.
That's
so
amazing.
So we go live at the church. It used to be an old theater, and it's kind of cool, you know. So we go live at the church, and he's trying to help my mom get on her feet. And he's like, all right, you've never had to budget before, so I'm going to help you budget this money that's coming in for you, because you still work there. So you take this amount, give me this amount of money, and I'll take your sons out to eat, and they can have a guy day with me.
Wow.
And you take your daughter out. You do something about with your daughter. So she does that. My mom takes me out. He takes the boys out, and we go. And my mom like gets my nails done, you know. And I'm like, oh, cool, I got blue nails, you know. I still remember. I was so happy about those blue nails. And then we go out to eat, and I'm like, wow, you know, my mom trades some of her food stamps in for cash, which it's a real thing. So I'm like, okay, they got the time. I would never get blue nails now. But then I love blue nails. So I got these blue nails. I was high off life. My mom, you know, she gets a little bit of money for some food stamps because that's a real thing. And we have a pretty okay day. And this was the first time that I had a normal day with my mom.
Wow.
And I was like, wow, this is cool. She wasn't high. She was on any drugs.
Wow.
She was just normal. And it was fine. So then I was like, okay, cool, we're good. So then we go back, my brothers are back, they're changed into their pajamas, into their sleeping bags, getting ready because getting ready for bed. My mom sets up the TV, we're gonna get ready to watch Moesha, my favorite TV show. And she's like, hey, you know, I'm just gonna go and get some Taco Bell right quick. You want something? I was like, no. Okay. She's like, I'll be back. I'm like, okay. And she leaves. My brothers have fallen asleep, and I'm still up, and my mom's not back. And so I'm like, Taco Bell's just down the street, you know. Why is she back yet? And it's midnight. Pastor comes in, drops off guy, because they went to an event that night. And I end up telling him, hey, my mom isn't back yet. She left like at 8 to go get Taco Bell. She isn't back. And he's like, oh my gosh, okay, let me call, blah, blah, blah. And I'm freaking out. I never freak out. I know my mom, you know?
Yeah.
But this night I was freaking out. And I went to him and I said, hey, are you going to call CPS? And he said, yeah, I have to.
Wow.
I was like, are they going to separate us? He said, they might. And my heart just drops because I have been my brother's sole care provider for my whole childhood, you know?
Yeah.
I've changed their diapers. I've panhandled so they have food.
You've been like their mom.
I've been their mom.
Yeah.
You know, and so I'm like, well, you can't take my brothers from me, you know? So I tell him, hey, I need to go outside and get some fresh air. But I really go outside to run away to look for my mom. Because I'm like, we can't be separated. Like, Mom, you can't do this to us, you know? So I book him. I just run, and I'm looking for my mom all over San Francisco, all over downtown San Francisco.
Wow.
And
at 1 in the morning or something.
Oh yeah.
That's a crazy place to be at 1 in the morning.
Oh, it's very crazy.
Yeah.
But I'm looking.
But you're a tough
I'm like,
girl.
I have to find my mom.
Wow.
You know? And so I take a bus to go to. I go to all the spots that I think my mom would be. I get from a bus to a taxi by feet. I'm looking for my mom. I went to a cousin's house. I took a bus all the way to a cousin's house. Oh no, it was a taxi all the way to the cousin's house. Hey, have you seen my mom? But we haven't seen her. Get back in the taxi. They take me somewhere else, and the Lord was with me because this taxi driver didn't charge me anything.
Wow.
And he just drove me around. Yeah.
Wow.
Crazy.
You just told her I'm looking for my mom.
I'm looking for my mom. And he's like, I got you. I'll take her around.
Wow.
So I'm looking, because at first I took a bus, and I took the bus to the end of the line. I didn't have no taxi after that. I didn't have anything. So I found the taxi. So I'm looking for my mom. Can't find her. And then the taxi had to go, obviously make some money, So he drops me off. He's like, good luck. And he drives off, and I'm walking around the city. I don't even know what time it is at this point. I'm just walking around the city, and I'm exhausted and tired. I can't find my mom anywhere. And I end up walking up this street, and this random guy tries to come to me, like, hey, try to. And I end up, there was some gangbangers across the street, and they saw me, and they saw a guy coming towards me, and I was like, hey, if you mess with me, I'm gonna get my cousins over there. And I look up at them, and they look at the guy, and they're like, they do the head nod, like, leave her alone.
Wow.
And the dude leaves me alone. I had no clue who those gangbangers was. I didn't know who they were. No clue who they were. None at all.
Wow.
But I knew in that moment, like, hey, if I tell them, I signal to them I'm in trouble.
Yeah.
So I knew enough to know that. And so I leave, and I'm just like, I'm dodging cops, dodging police and everything, looking for my mom. Finally, I get to the Greyhound bus station, because I'm like, maybe she's here. I get to the Greyhound bus station, and all I can think of, and I'm praying, I'm like, God, I just want to go home. And when I'm saying home, I'm saying my grandmother's house with my mom. Like, God, I just want to go home. I just want to go home. I need to find my mom. I'm tired. I'm so tired. And I look out the window, and I see this woman pushing a basket. I'm like, oh my gosh, that's my mom. I run out of the Greyhound bus station. I book it across the street to this woman. Like, Mom. She turns around. The woman isn't my mom. I break down crying. I'm like, I don't know what else to do.
Wow.
I leave the woman. I go walk to a bus station. At this point, it's like 4 o'clock in the morning.
Oh my gosh.
And I get to the bus stop, and there's these like dudes there, and I was so exhausted. I was like, hey, I'm really tired, and I need to sleep. I'm gonna lay right here on the bus bench. Can you make sure nobody does anything to me?
Wow.
And they go, yeah, lay down. We'll make sure you're fine. I lay on the bus.
Wow.
Yeah, lay on the bench. The bus, nobody touched me. The bus came. I got on the bus. The bus took me back to the church. I got to the church. No, I'm begging on door. Nobody's answering. And it's like maybe 6 in the morning now. The sun's coming up.
Wow.
So I sit on the front of the church. I just sit on the concrete, and I fall asleep. And I smell bread. Every morning in San Francisco, you smell bread because, there's so many bakeries. I smell bread, and I'm just laying there, falling asleep. And this guy, this older man, comes up to me and goes, hey, do you want some bread? I'm like, yeah, I love some bread. He gives me some bread. And I eat the bread, and he walks away, and I get up, and I bang on the church again, bang on the church door, and the other guy who lives there, answers, your brothers are gone, your mom's home looking for you guys.
Wow.
They took your brothers, juvenile hall, they're gonna take you to juvenile hall. I was like, what? I didn't do anything. I ran away because I was looking for my mom,
Wow.
I was like, well, you better, find, whatever. Somehow I end up with this money on me. I don't know. And I I leave the church. I go to the metro station. I get on the train to go to Oakland. Get on the train, get my ticket to go to Oakland, and I'm on the train. And I can't remember if I get off at this stop or if I get off here. I can remember. I end up sitting next to this guy, and I'm like, hey, do you know if we get off here? I'm trying to get to this part, in Oakland. And he's like, oh, yeah. He's like, what's your name? I was like, my name is such and such. And he's like, oh, okay, cool. He's like, my homies live in Oakland, blah, blah, blah. And he tells me their names. I'm like, oh, those are my cousins. And he's like, what? You one of their cousin? I'm like, yeah. And he's like, oh, bet. He's like, okay, I'll tell you how to get there. He said, look, you get off here, you get off at this stop right here, then you're going to go on this train and it'll take you right there. And then when you get off there, you go upstairs and you take this bus and it'll take you right in front of your auntie's house.
Wow.
I was like, okay, cool. Thanks,
That's
get off the train. I get
what
on
are
the
the
next
chances?
train, right, I get on the next one. It drops me off right where he told me. I get upstairs, the bus is right there. And then for some reason, because, I don't know, I thought about my cousin, my younger cousin who was younger than me. I was like, oh my gosh, it's her birthday. I don't have a gift. I kid you, this is not like, this is literally what happened. Like, I'm not making this stuff up, I know. So I'm like, I don't have a gift, what am I gonna do? I was like, oh wait, there's a hair store. And then my cousin loved these like little butterfly clips that were like a big deal back then. And so I'm like, okay, I get her a butterfly clip. I was like, I'll get her a butterfly clip. And I get back to the bus stop. I'm like, okay. And then I look, I'm like, oh man, I don't have enough change for the bus because I bought the butterfly clip.
Oh my god.
I know this is kind of long, but this is how it's getting
Sure.
So I'm like, okay, whatever. So I'm like, I'm worried about the bus stop. I'm like, oh my gosh, I don't know if I'm gonna get there. And I end up talking to this older lady. I was like, I don't have enough money to get to this stop. She's like, don't worry, just tell him. He'll be fine. So I get on the bus. I told the guy, I was like, I'm sorry. I had to get my cousin a gift, and I don't have enough money. I need to get to my aunt's house. The bus driver's like, oh, don't worry about it, sweetheart. Sit right here. I'll take you right there.
Wow.
So I get on the bus. He takes me right there, drops me off at my aunt's house. Get to my aunt's house. Now, all of these relatives that I'm talking about right now are my stepfather's relatives, like not my brother's people. Anyway, so I get off in front of my aunt's house.
Are these the ones that beat your mom?
Oh yeah,
These are the ones.
Yeah, these are the ones.
Wow.
But like these
still
cousins,
family.
they're still family.
Right.
And these cousins are a little different. They were as hostile to my mom and us,
Okay.
as the ones that were in LA. Anyway, so I get to my aunt's house and they're like, Anna. I'm like, yeah. Yo, I don't know where my mom or my brothers are. They have been calling my aunt's house. She's like, well, your mom got put in jail for prostitution and possession.
Whoa.
And your brothers are in a holding home. So
Wow.
I get, I'm here, so I end up staying with one of my other cousins. And through the foster care, they approved for me to stay with my other cousin. So I'm staying with her. And
With
so,
the ones in Oakland.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
So we're all in holding homes until they figure out what to do with this. My brothers are somewhere else. I don't even know where my brothers are.
Wow.
And so my mom, they asked my mom, where do you want us to put your kids? Because you're not getting them back, And she says with my mom. And so they end up taking all of us kids from, wherever we were, moving us with my aunt and my grandmother. And my aunt and my grandmother, that's how my aunt and my grandmother got custody of all 5 of us. And really,
Wow.
they couldn't adopt us because they needed the financial help. So we were with them under foster care. So we were in foster.
Because your mom needed the financial help?
No, my grandmother and my aunt needed the financial help to raise us.
Oh,
To take care of
if they
us.
adopted you, they wouldn't get financial help?
No.
Oh, from the foster, because foster pays, but adoption does not.
Does not.
Wow, so crazy.
So they had to keep us under foster care.
Okay.
So
But they still raised you, basically.
Yes.
From that point on.
Yeah, they raised us from that point on. But I had a social worker my whole life, basically.
Got it.
Until I was 18 and I graduated from high school and I didn't have to deal with it anymore. Yeah. So, my aunt and my grandmother were our legal guardians, is what they call it.
Right. And this is Moreno Valley now. So now you're back.
So now I'm back to Moreno Valley.
Wow. And you guys were all able to stay together.
We were able to stay together. And my aunt, an incredible woman, you know, the best mom that I could have ever asked for.
Wow.
You know. Man, sometimes it's hard to talk about it, sometimes it's not. But she's with the Lord now. She passed 2 years ago. And so, yeah, but she did an incredible job raising us. I mean, she gave her life. She literally gave her life.
Did she have her own kids too?
No.
Was she married?
No.
Wow.
And I think a lot of the reason why she didn't get married is because she had to raise us. And so,
wow.
Never got married, never had children, and the running joke is that what my biological mom says is, my twin couldn't have any kids, so I gave her 5.
Wow.
And she did. She gave her 5, and she did an incredible job. This woman. I mean, she was at every recital, every play. Every game.
Wow.
So many things. I mean, because my grandmother wasn't able to do all of that.
Right, of course. Yeah.
And so,
the fact that you guys were even in recitals and games. I mean,
huge.
Before that, you probably weren't.
Oh no, we weren't in anything. We weren't in anything.
And you were in school.
We were in school, and for the first time.
And you were at church.
Yeah.
So you all of a sudden had a somewhat normal life.
Yeah, I mean, somewhat. It was.
It's still different. You don't have a dad. There's still all kinds of things. You're obviously dealing with all the trauma.
Yeah, I mean, it was really hard. My mom was in and out of our lives at that point. I mean, she would ghost for a year and then pop back up at my grandmother's house unexpected, and which she wasn't supposed to do that. But
oh really? Once
in the foster system, parents can't just show up. They have to have scheduled.
There's a protocol.
They have scheduled meeting times with their kids, and if they just pop up and show up, then the foster care system can remove the kids from the home because they can't trust that the foster parents will keep distance between them and the kids and the parent.
Wow.
Because the state has declared that they're unfit to take care of the children and they want to protect the child. Yeah.
Wow.
So, but my mom would pop up all the time. Thank God we never got caught. But my mom, she would, pick and choose when she would come. She never came to the scheduled meetings. She would just pop up whenever she wanted to.
Wow.
I mean, it was crazy. So we were dealing with that, and in counseling and all of these different things to try to help us kids get to some kind of normalcy. But my mom interfered a lot, with my brothers and different things like that. So that made things difficult for my aunt and my grandmother. It was a lot. It was a lot on them, but they did the best that they could, and I'm grateful that they did. I wouldn't be where I'm at today if it had not been for my aunt and my grandmother deciding to, and they would do it all over again.
Wow.
They would literally do it all over again.
Wow.
Because to them, there was no better place for us to be than with them.
Wow.
And so, I'm grateful for them, that they did that, because I don't know where me and my brothers would be today if we had stayed in the system in the way that the system works, you know.
Yeah.
Even though we were still technically in the system, we were with my grandmother and my aunt, and it was the safest place that we could have ever been.
Wow.
And so we get put in their custody. We are trying to figure out how life works now. You know,
Yeah.
I have never consistently been in school. I don't know how school works. I don't want to be at school. I don't, you know, I don't know how to do life.
Yeah.
You know, and so there's moments where I was really overwhelmed. You know, my grandma was still very much at heart disciplinarian, and so she expected A's right out the gate, and I was like, ma'am, I have not been in school. I ain't getting no A's. Yes, I said I ain't. But, you know, my grandma, in my grandmother's house, there's no such thing as can't. So
Wow.
you have to, you know? And I was like,
You just need to be happy I'm not
okay,
failing.
And maybe I am.
And maybe you did sometimes.
Oh, no, for sure. Because I was...
Yeah, you're behind.
I'm so behind. But the other thing was, it was more, and I think my grandma saw this in me, but it was more, yes, I was behind in some things, but really, I was the biggest procrastinator ever.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
It was like, I love crunch time. You know? It's like, okay, I'm not going to do this until, and the thing is, I still do. I mean, after I have 3 kids now, so, you know, your brain kind of checks out a little bit, you know? But I have a great photographic memory. And so I was the kid that like, okay, I know that if I read this 4 or 5 times, the same thing over and over again, I'm going to remember it when I get to the test. And so I depended on that. So I didn't study, you know, I didn't like actually study. It was like, no, I could just memorize it, which is why history, I always aced history because it was so easy, you know.
Yeah.
Just remember it.
That's a form of study. Memorization is study.
Right, but I didn't know it. I didn't know the material because I knew the material.
Yeah.
I knew the material just because I like memorized it, you know.
Yeah.
So anyway, so that was my life, you know. But I didn't know any other way. I didn't know structure. I didn't know, you know, to go sit down and do my homework. My form of doing my homework was watching TV and doing my homework at the same time. You know. So anyway, my grandmother was still she didn't let up, you know, she didn't care. She's like, it doesn't matter. I don't care that you grew up on the streets.
From no structure to lots of rules and lots of structure.
Oh yeah, I didn't know. I was just, so I developed this saying of, I cannot wait until I get 18 and I can leave this house. I can go to college and leave. But little did I know that actually got me to college. Because I wanted to get away from my grandmother so much. And so my thought at that age was, the way I could get away from my grandma is if I leave and go to college. Not like leave and go rebel. It was like, I need to go to college so I can get away, you know?
Wow.
And, you know, because my aunt went to college. You know, she was in school. I was watching her. And I was like, yeah, that's how you do it. You know?
But you never felt that towards your aunt, like I want to get away from her.
Oh, no.
It was just your grandma.
Just my grandma. My aunt was like, you know, my aunt was like the cool parent.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, even if we did something bad, I mean, she fussed. Oh my God. She fussed to no end. But she was like the cool parent. It was like, you know you shouldn't be doing that. Why are you doing that?
Yeah.
You know? She was just cool.
Yeah.
You know? And so I knew that even if I made her mad, like boiling hot mad, it would die down at some point. And I could go to her and sit and she would talk. But that's how her father was. He was never the like, I'm gonna give you a spanking kind of thing. That was my grandmother. My grandfather was, we need to talk. Let's have a conversation. Yeah. And that's a lot how my aunt was, you know. And so I wanted to stay with her, but I could get away from my grandma.
But you lived with both of them. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah.
So at what point did you feel you got even closer to God? Or do you feel like you were just always close to God?
So there was moments. I mean, I was not at all like, you know, perfect Christian girl or in any means, you know. I was trying to figure out who I was. Yeah. You know, I had a very low self-esteem. I mean, very, very low self-esteem. Yeah. I would wear huge sweaters with, you know, baggy pants and shoes that were 2 sizes bigger than my actual feet, and I just covered up everything, you know. I didn't think that I had any value at all. I mean, I had come from, you know, men and boys, a man, abusing me, you know, and my brother's dad would, you know, if I wore a skirt or if I wore shorts, would call me a hoe just for wearing those things. Wow. And this was the same man that was sexually abusing me. Wow. And so my self-esteem, you know, as a teenage girl was like, I had none. Wow. I had none. And so with that, I searched for attention from boys, and, you know, I never like did anything because I was always scared, you know. And I would always find myself in a situation with a guy when I knew they wanted, you know, I knew they wanted sex from me, you know, or something more than what I was willing to give. And I would always pray and like, God, I don't want to do this, Lord. Help me get out of this. And something random would happen, and I would get out of it every time. Which I thought was hilarious because it's like I'm literally walking into the situation. Like I'm willingly walking into the situation and I'm praying to God at the same time. Get me out, God. I really don't want this, but I'm going. You know? And he would get me out. So I was seeking attention, and I had a best friend in high school, and I was like in love with this dude, and you know, I really wanted to be with him, and I still had very low self-esteem and all the things. And I remember thinking I was getting ready to transfer to Ford University. And I remember thinking at that moment, like, God, if I go to because there was 2 schools that I could have went to. And one was a Christian university and the other was not. And the other that was not, my boyfriend at the time, best friend, boyfriend, could come to visit me at my dorm apartment, you know. And so, but at the other he couldn't. And so I remember thinking at that moment, like, God, like, if I go to this school, like, I don't know, I might end up pregnant. Like, I might end up being sleeping with this guy. Like, I really love this dude, even though I know we're not supposed to be together. Like, God, I need you to save me. Wow. I need you to save me. Because if you don't save me, I'm going to end up like my mom. Wow. Now, I hadn't done anything crazy at that moment. I graduated from high school, you know, 3-point-something grade average, you know.
That's
went
incredible.
Went on to a JC, and I was doing relatively good there and trying to finish up there, and wanted to go to, you know, my dream school, but that wasn't working out. And, you know, I was getting ready to finish this JC, and I didn't know what to do. And that was my cry to the Lord. Like, God, you have to save me. Wow. If you don't save me from this, it's not going to look good. Wow. I just knew it, you know. I hadn't made any crazy decisions in the moment, but I knew something inside of me was like, God, if I choose this other school, which my aunt wanted me to go to this school because it was her alma mater. And I didn't want to disappoint her.
Yeah, of course.
You know, this is my mom to me.
Yeah,
you know?
yeah.
I can't disappoint her. I have to go to this school.
Right.
But if I go to this school, I don't know what's going to happen.
Wow.
And I remember being so scared. And I was like, God, you know? I was watching Touched by Angel a lot at that time. Like, God, can you send an angel or something? Get me out of here, you know?
Wow.
And he sent these ladies who came to my church. And our church at the time. And they asked me about testimony one night. I shared with them. And they ended up telling me about this school in Costa Mesa. And I was like, that's interesting. I don't know. I ain't never took her to school in my life. I ain't gonna start now, you know? I don't know. And plus I get a full ride if I go to Cal State. You know, which was very smart back then. Yeah. Looking at it now. So I don't have any debt, but you know, whatever.
Right.
But it's like, oh, I'm in Cal State. I don't know about that. And I remember thinking about the school and I was praying with them, these women in their home. And the Lord shows me this picture of the school and I start weeping. It's the first time I ever had an encounter like that with God. Wow. And I knew, I was like, all right, God, I gotta go to this school. I gotta go to this school. And I remember my aunt being so disappointed. Oh, she was so disappointed. She raised hell. It was horrible. And why are you going to this school? Oh, you know, it was like, it was the worst thing for me, you know? Yeah. But I knew I had to go. Wow. I knew I had to go. And it was the first time that I had to step out of faith. Wow. In my walk with the Lord. The first time. You know, this whole time it was like, you know, easy peasy, you know. And the Lord's like, go to the school. I'm like, oh God, why? You know. But I'm so glad that I did. So I go to the school and, you know, I don't go to the other one. And it was the best decision that I ever made in my life was going to this school. Wow. Because I encountered God. I didn't know. I knew the Lord. I knew about being saved and following the rules. You know, I didn't even know my Bible that well at that time. But I knew that I loved God. And I knew that I needed to be a good girl. I needed to do all the good things, you know? Yeah. And I've seen the other side of stuff. Right. So, you know, I wasn't trying to kick it over there. You know what I mean? I just wanted to follow God. And so I knew all the good stuff. And then the church that me and my family were attending, it was, you know, very controlling and manipulative. And I didn't know that at the time. But, and very much just using me for my gifting. And I didn't know that at the time, you know.
So you were in the choir?
I was worshiping.
Oh, your church. Mm-hmm. Starting at what age?
18.
Okay.
Until I was 23. That's the time that I transferred to the other school.
Wow. So you were in JC for a while?
No, kind of. Like
how old were you when you graduated high school?
When I graduated high school, I was 18.
Okay.
No, sorry, 22. I don't know. I graduated high school, I was 18. And then I did JC for 2 years, 2.5 years. So maybe I was 20. I don't know, I was 27.
Okay.
No, I did JC 2 years. So
okay.
18, 19, 20. Maybe I was 20, right? Whatever. Yeah, I was 24. Yes. 21. 20, going 20. There you go. Okay. So I get to, you know, JC. And I knew all of these things, but I didn't know that the Lord wanted a relationship with me. I didn't know He wanted a relationship with me. I didn't know He actually wanted me. Like, it wasn't about rules. Yeah. It wasn't about accomplishing these things to show Him how much I love Him. Yeah. him wanting me.
Wow.
And wanting to be with me.
Wow.
And wanting to walk with me. And talk with me. Like, he enjoyed our talks.
Yeah.
He enjoyed listening to me talk to him. Like, I had no clue that that's what he wanted.
Wow.
You know? And so, he encountered me.
Wow.
And I met some awesome friends who were still my best friends to this day.
Wow.
They're the ones who live in the nation that we're getting ready to move to.
No way. So you were connected with them that long ago?
Yeah. So I've been friends with them for almost 20 years.
Wow.
And
so this is, you started to encounter the Lord at this deep of a level once you went to the college.
Once I went to the college.
Which is Vanguard.
Vanguard. So I went to Vanguard, and I saw people, like, you know, laughing in church and waving flags and all this. I'm like, what is this? You know, my friend invited me to the church. I'm like, what is going on up in here? Why are they waving flags? And why are they laughing? Are they okay? Are they possessed? Like, literally, like, you know, what is going on up in here?
Wow.
And the first time me going into a church like that was when Kim Walker came to Tustin. It was a church in Tustin. And I went with my friends because they were like, you need to come. You don't know who Kim Walker is? You gotta come. I was like, okay. I'll go. And I came, and here I was thinking I'm this hood girl going to this rich Orange County school with all these kids.
Yeah.
And lo and behold, I was dumbfounded because there was people that were like me and normal, not black, but like, you know,
Not many black people.
Not many black people. I mean, back then, now they have a lot more black people at the school, but back then you can count them on my hand, okay?
Wow.
But my friends, though, my friends were super cool and down to earth, and you know, like Latino and Filipino, whatever, you know, whatever. So, which I was used to that because I was always around all different cultures, you know, growing up. So anyway, so they're like, hey, you gotta come, Kim Walker. I'm like, okay, welcome to Kim Walker. I don't know who she is, but all right. And I go there, and I'm seeing all this stuff, and I'm just a little scared. But I feel the Lord, like, telling me to come to the front. And I was like, oh, I don't know about that. You know, like, you have to stay in your seat during worship, not move out of your seat. Because that was like, I'd never seen nobody go out their seat before to worship God. That's crazy. I had only seen people sit in their chair.
Huh.
You know? I'm like, okay. You know, these people are like dancing. So I go up front, and I have this crazy encounter with God.
Wow.
Like, crazy encounter with God. And I'm laughing. And I was like, okay, God, am I okay? Like, I'm laughing. I don't know what this is. And, you know, later on, I realized, now I know, that was the joy of the Lord. But I was experiencing this joy, is what I'm saying. But as I'm experiencing this joy, the Lord is delivering me from depression. Wow. And He's delivering me from these things that have oppressed me. Wow. You know, as I'm experiencing this joy and this laughter, like, this laughter is actually breaking chains off of me that have been on me since I was a kid.
Whoa. That's so powerful. Yeah,
and I had this crazy experience, and then I was hooked. I was like, oh, where's the next prayer meeting? When's the next worship night? You know?
Wow.
And I went with my friends, and I'm like, yeah, I'm down. I was skipping class. I was missing classes. I was skipping classes to go pray.
I love that. That's hilarious.
Literally, I missed 2 days of school to go to Jesus Culture. I don't know. I made up some excuse to my professors. I was like, I gotta go. I was missing so much school that it was affecting my GPA because I was like, I just gotta have more of that because I had never experienced God like this before.
Wow.
I just gotta have Him. Wow. I gotta have more of these experiences,
Wow.
And the Lord is just like, I would go to this church called BCC, Vineyard Community, some church, yes, in Laguna Niguel, and with my friends. And I'd go, and there would be this speaker. It didn't matter who was there, you know. I'm like just having these encounters with God.
Wow.
And this guy, this church is huge, okay? I'm way in the back of the church, like getting ready to walk out the door. And this guy who's speaker who's there, he's on the stage and he goes, "Hey, you." And I'm like, oh, he's talking to me. Maybe this person away. Because I'm way in the back of the church, okay? Yeah. Like, there's no way he saw me. "You right there." And I'm like, "Me? Yeah, you. The Lord says," he's like giving me this word. He sees me all this stuff. Reading my mail. I fall flat on my face.
Wow.
In the back of the church. Like, just wrecked.
Wow.
I don't know what to do.
No one even touched you.
No one touched me. No one touched me. "You're right there." I fall flat down. I'm crying. I mean, ugly snot, cry. Just all like, I am undone. Like, I couldn't even talk. It was like, and my other friends too, it was the same thing. We were looking at each other trying to talk. We couldn't even talk. All we could do was speak in tongues. That was it. And so I'm having these encounters with God.
Wait, so when did you start speaking in tongues? Was it at your old church?
Oh, at my old church, yeah.
Okay.
I haven't been speaking in tongues for a little while.
Okay, so your old church was still like a Pentecostal church.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah, I was speaking in tongues and all that.
Okay.
But I just didn't know about this other part of the Lord, of my walk with Jesus. I had no clue. So I'm having these crazy encounters with God, like undeniable encounters with the Lord. Like, I am just like, what vortex did I just step into?
Wow.
And he's just delivering me. Like, and it's not, I feel like we think of deliverance of probably a few different ways.
Yeah.
But this is the first time that I had experienced deliverance, and it was just this liberating, like, it wasn't like a, get out, David, It was just like, God just setting me free.
Wow.
It was crying, weeping, joy, all of these things, and God just delivering me from, depression, God delivering me from self-hatred, God delivering me from, just all of these lies and word curses spoken over my life from my childhood.
Yeah.
I mean, so many things. My great grandfather had gotten into like voodoo and things like that. I had no clue. And when I was younger, when I was 12 or 13, same age there, but I had this sudden interest in witchcraft.
Huh.
I wanted to buy a spell book. Like, I was really interested in witchcraft.
Wow.
And my aunt, the younger of all the kids, was friends with a witch. Wow. And I remember thinking, oh, there's spells and things, good spells. Just, I want to be a good witch. I remember being that.
Wow.
And fast forward to that moment with me being at Vanguard, I went to a class at this church that we're going to. They're like, we're just going to break off all of these number of things that you might have gotten. I'm like, I don't got any of that. And my grandma, I remember grandma telling me about my great grandfather. And then I remembered I was 13 and I totally wanted to buy a spell book.
Wow.
And I was all into Charm and Sabrina Teenage Witch. I was into all of these shows, but I didn't realize that was connected to, my great grandfather opening a door,
Wow.
stuff. And so I fast forward to me being at college and going to all these, events and prayer events and church and all that, and the Lord delivers me from it. You know, and I hadn't realized that I had put all this stuff, you know. I mean, and I didn't really like go into like.
How did you feel like how did you know specifically he was delivering you from witchcraft?
We were renouncing things.
Okay.
And like we were going through a list of like, God, I break off this.
And when they came to witchcraft.
And when it came to that, I was reminded of when I was 13.
Oh, okay.
And
memories came.
Yeah. And I was like, oh yeah, I probably need to break it off because I probably opened the door somewhere.
Wow.
And so, like, I was having all these encounters. God was delivering me. I was getting all of this stuff was happening, you know.
Yeah.
And then I get asked to be an intercessor, to be a prayer leader and worship leader in a prayer group that we had started on campus.
Wow.
I was like, what? They're like, yeah, we want you and, you know, these other people to be on the team for you guys to be the new team to lead the prayer meetings on campus. And I was like, you think I'm an intercessor? Right? Because I'm thinking this is a huge thing. I'm a prayer leader? What? Me? Pray? Lead? You know?
Wow.
I was so shocked, you know? And sure enough, like, I'm now prayer leading on campus. And now I'm leading worship at these worship nights on campus.
Wow.
And now I'm doing, and I'm like, what is happening with my life?
Wow.
But I didn't want to do anything else.
Wow.
It was all I wanted to do.
Wow.
And God has set me free from so much. You know, I was just like, yeah, I'll give my life for this, God.
Wow.
I'll give my life for this. Because I want to be with you and I want to see you and move with you and hear you. Like, I just got to have more of you. So, yeah, I'll do it. So I'm on campus, a prayer leader on campus, worship leader, doing all these things, encountering the Lord. And I love God, you know?
Wow.
And
that's around when we met you, right?
Mm-hmm.
Movement 133.
Movement 133, yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah, and I had only been, I mean, I think when I met you guys, I was just finishing, actually. I was just finishing college.
Okay, so it was at the tail end of that.
Tail end of it. And
Yeah, because you were a leader when we met you.
Mm-hmm.
So you had already been leading for a while.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Wow.
And I loved it, you know. And I knew that, I didn't know that, you know, being a part of, you know, prayer and worship and all of these different things was something that I was going to pursue the rest of my life because I'm a musician, you know, I'm a singer, I write songs, this is my major, this is, you know, whatever.
Oh, so you were a music major?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I didn't know that.
Yeah, music major, religion minor.
Okay.
And because I wanted to be a worship pastor. That's really what I wanted to do.
Okay.
Outside of music stuff, I wanted to be a worship pastor.
Okay.
Which never happened. Still could, maybe, I don't know. But I don't know. But I wanted to be a worship pastor. And I've always known that I was called to vocational ministry my whole life. Which is interesting because my grandmother says the same thing. She's like, oh, I've always known that you were called to this.
Wow.
Your whole, since you were a child.
Wow.
So it's interesting, but so that's all I wanted to do, and that road, you know, going to Vanguard and encountering the Lord in that way. I think back to it, I'm like, oh my gosh, that's so crazy. Like, to experience Him in that way,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah.
But that led me in my journey of, you know, leading worship and, you know, being a part of different movements and different prayer movements, you know, and, you know, YWAM, you know, I did YWAM for a while and all different things. And I just knew that I wanted to give my life for that stuff.
You just dove headfirst all in.
Dove headfirst, all in.
Wow.
All in. My family thought it was crazy.
Really?
Even
your aunt?
Oh yeah, my aunt thought it was crazy for a minute. She was like, so I thought she thought I was going crazy because she would say, honey, you gotta have a backup plan. what are you gonna do if this doesn't work out?
Right,
you know?
right.
Or, or she was constantly printing applications for me to fill out to do American Idol or The Voice. Always.
That's hilarious.
Always. I mean, always. Every time I saw her, I printed this application out for you. Fill it out. You gotta do it, Always. I never did it,
Oh, you wouldn't do it?
No.
Oh, okay.
Because I was like, no. I'm giving myself for the Lord. Not doing it that way. I'm not going to become famous for the world. I'm going to do it for God.
Amen. Amen.
Looking back at it, I probably would have changed that. I probably would have went ahead and did American Idol. Not that I wouldn't have served the Lord. Obviously, I would have served the Lord.
Totally.
But I think,
there's nothing wrong with that as
Yeah.
long as your heart is in the right place.
Right.
But when you're young, fame can mess with you. So
It can. Maybe it wouldn't have. Yeah, maybe he was keeping me. I don't know. But I was like, no, I'm not doing that. I want to do this for God.
Yeah.
And I did. And I some stuff was cool. I did some cool things, but cool to me. But I also experienced a lot of church hurt too. In that and realizing that people can use you for your gifting in the church too. Like you can be used and all the things. But I still wouldn't change it for anything.
Yeah.
I would still give it all.
Yeah.
Again, I would empty out everything that I have again.
Wow.
To just be with him.
Wow.
And if he said, do it again, I would do it again.
Wow.
In a heartbeat. Because it's so much better. It's so much better than doing what I want to do.
Yeah. So since those college days, has it just been cruising on up with God, or?
Oh, there's been ebbs and flows. I think, I mentioned earlier experiencing some church hurt.
Yeah.
Being used for my giftings in a lot of ways, and so there was moments or pockets where I would never turn away from the Lord, but I pulled back from being around certain circles and communities because I felt used and I just needed to be with the Lord. And so I would continue going to church, but I wouldn't do as much as I used to. So there was those moments, and then I got married to one of my best friends, and
How long have you guys been married?
We've been married for 6 years in August.
Okay, awesome.
It's crazy to think that it's almost 6 years now. We've been together for 7, and now we're married for 6, just about. So that's crazy. But I got married, and that was awesome because that had been a dream of mine for a long time, to be married and to be a mom. And so with my husband, and then we had our own struggles together. Marriage is amazing. It's amazing, but it has its refining challenges.
Yeah.
I'll say that. It will refine you, and it will crush you, and it will make you die, and then you will come to life again.
Yeah.
And so that's been the journey. But me and my husband, we've had our ups and downs, and I've watched God restore. I've seen us, in our marriage be so broken, and then I've seen God come in and restore those broken pieces.
Yeah.
I would say the most challenging years of my life have been the past 2 years of my life.
Wow.
Experiencing the loss of my mom, my aunt who raised me, but my mom, experiencing that and, watching her body deteriorate in front and now in ICU with a newborn, and so hard, in ICU with her, loving on her, leave, go breastfeed, leave, go back to ICU, leave. It was for 3 weeks, crazy.
Wow.
And, watching that, and but the Lord was with us every step of the way, but it was hard.
Yeah.
Watching the one person who's been my biggest cheerleader my whole life.
Yeah.
Go in that way.
Yeah.
And that was really, really hard. It still is.
Yeah.
I miss her every day. I wish I could call her, but that was really challenging and really hard for me. And in her passing, why does family get crazy when someone dies? They act crazy.
Really? So
Yes. My family
everyone
went,
comes together for the funeral.
They went, crazy.
Wow.
Like, woo, Lord Jesus, thank you God for bringing me out of it. But I had a lot of family struggles. I had some family who, literally turned their backs on me. And right after her passing, and it was so hard. The people that I thought would be there weren't. Thank God, my brothers and my biological, they were there, and my grandmother, but other family members that I thought would be there weren't. And so it was really hard. 3 months later, some stuff happened in our marriage that was really hard, and then a month later I had a miscarriage.
Wow.
So it was like boom, 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 one thing after another.
Wow.
For me. And then, the struggle of like life, of momming, and being a mom is a blessing, and it's not a struggle. I just mean like the daily task.
Yeah.
Of being a mom on top of grief.
Yeah.
And on top of like trying to keep my marriage afloat.
Yeah.
And
you have 3 under 4 years old.
3 under 4 years old.
Yeah.
Now, yeah. Glory girl, that's our promise. That's our promised child. I mean, they all are, but praise God for Isaac and Canaan. I love them so much. But I just want to say that. I love my boys very, very much, and they are amazing. But after losing our other child, it was like, wow, God, I don't know, how much more I can take at that point.
Yeah.
And then I got pregnant with Glory.
Wow.
I still don't feel worthy of her.
She's so beautiful.
She's
amazing.
She's amazing. She's a beautiful baby girl. And she wakes up in the morning with a big old smile on her face and ready to eat, but a big old smile on her face. And I pick her up and she just smiles, and I'm just like, where did you get this smile from? Like, where did you get all of this from? You're so beautiful. I don't know what to do with you. You're everything I didn't know that I needed. Like, I didn't know. Only God,
Yeah.
I mean, he told me that we were going to have a girl a year before we did.
Yeah.
And he told me what to name her, before she came.
Yeah.
And like, God, you knew that I needed this little girl, and I didn't even know that I needed her. I didn't even know that I needed her, And it's changed, like, she just melts my heart. I don't even know. Like, I feel like I'm lost for words with this girl. Sorry, go on about Glory, but she's been such a blessing. She's such a blessing. All of my kids are. Isaac and Canaan, like, man, they helped mommy get through. I would probably be in a bed crawled up, still in tears about losing my mom, if I did not have to get up every morning and feed my children. If I didn't have to get up every morning to make sure they had what they needed. Like, it got me through. It got me through. And now, glory is like seeing the fulfillment of promise from the Lord for the next seasons to come.
Come on.
You know, like, I'm in awe of God. I'm dumbfounded, you know, for lack of better words, but I'm just in awe of the Lord. But I'll say this thing, even though the past 2 years have been so hard, I mean, just, you know, someone turned up the fire in the furnace, you know, it's been brutal. It's been so brutal. But I've gotten to see a side of Jesus that I wouldn't have seen if I hadn't gone through what we went through the past 2 years. To still be in a place where I would give God my everything again. I would say yes to Him again. Even though the stuff that I've had to walk through. And this is not to like pat myself on the back in any way, but it's to say, wow, God, you really have me.
Yeah.
Like my faith isn't shaken.
Yeah.
Like I don't have to doubt my walk in God. Like I don't have to wonder if this is really real to me. I don't have to wonder about that. Because it is. You know, I've walked through hell.
Yes, you've walked through hell and back.
And back.
Multiple times.
Multiple times. So many times. And I'm just like, I used to say when I was a kid, I used to say, God, I don't care. I'll follow you anywhere. I don't care. I don't care, God. I will follow you. I would do it. God, I didn't know what I was saying. I was saying these things, and I was, you know, 12, 13, 14. I didn't know what I was saying.
Yeah.
I said, God, I'll follow you anywhere. I don't care. I don't care. You know, the enemy can do this. I will still follow you. And I didn't know that, like, now in my 30s, going through the stuff that I've gone through, it's so true. That statement is so true. And it's still true. That's why I can laugh. My car being stolen, you know, with all of our valuable possessions in it. Like, we have no clothes, shoes. We gotta get shoes for the kids. We gotta get all these new things again. And I'm just like, all right, let's go shopping. You know? Like, because what are you gonna do?
Yeah.
What are you gonna do? But just trust Him.
Yeah.
Just trust Him. He has a plan. There was an allowance for it to happen. So that means that God has something else in store. That means that He has a better plan than I had. He has something better than what I could conjure up or put together. Like, it's better. And when I learned that His way is better than my way, then I'm not shaken when stuff happens.
Wow.
Because I'm founded on the rock. You know, I'm founded on the rock, and the world has absolutely nothing for me. It has nothing for me. None of it. None of it. I don't want any of it. None of it is appealing to me. None of it. I've seen it. I've been there. What is it going to do for me? You know? Like, getting upset, cussing, whatever, you know? Becoming a drunk, becoming an alcoholic, becoming a drug addict, whatever the vice is. It does nothing for me. It will never do anything for me. so I press on towards the mark. I keep pressing into him. I keep leaning into him. You know, there's that song, what is it? Something, oh yeah, I know the end of the story, I'll come without a wilderness, the leaning on my beloved. You know, we sing that song, you know, but then when you actually are tested with what those lyrics mean, you know, I know the end of the story, I'm going to come up out of the wilderness, leaning on my beloved.
Wow, that's good.
And it's like, yeah, this can happen, but I know the end of the story.
Wow, that's good. That lyric has never hit me, and it just did. Wow. Yeah, I mean, just hearing you and hearing the fullness of your story, you've shared pieces of it with us for many years, but I'm just in awe of you, Anna, and I'm just in awe of what God's done in you. Because you are one of the most joyful human beings that I know. You're always smiling. You're always positive. Like you always, like right now, like your car getting stolen this week in front of our house, and you're laughing and you're like, it's all right. We're gonna be fine. God is good. God's in control. You know, like I would be freaking out right now. Like I'm like, what? And yeah, I'm in awe. I'm in awe, okay, because I've been in a lot of ministry, and I've been in a lot of ministry with broken families and homelessness and depression and abuse and all this stuff, and I've seen so much trauma. I'm amazed. You are one of the most healthiest human beings I know. You know? Like you're not, I'm amazed that you're not dealing with schizophrenia and like bipolar and like all the mental illnesses that there are in this world, going through all the hell you went through. I mean, starting at 5, at 4, I mean, just like, what? It's, that to me is a greater sign and wonder than someone being healed of a sickness. I mean, like, that God has so healed you, so delivered you, that if someone were to meet you right now and not knowing any of your story, like they would never imagine that you had grown up in that hell, because you're such a healthy person. Like I would assume, oh, you probably have a great family, you know, you probably grew up in a great church with a great family, and have, you know, like you're just such a whole human being. And I'm like, wow, God is God of miracles. He's faithful.
Yes.
He's faithful.
He definitely is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So anyways, love you, Anna.
I love you too, Josh.
Is there any last things on your heart that you would want to say, or to anyone listening, or besides, I mean, you shared a lot.
Go with God. No, really, go with God. You can't go wrong. You can't go wrong if you go with God. You cannot go wrong. He will always steer you in the right direction, even if it looks crazy. You know, this one last thing I think about, the disciples when they were on the boat with Jesus, and you know they're freaking out because the storm is happening. They're like, are you asleep? No, we're gonna get taken over, you know. And you know, I remember reading that and going across that scripture all the time, and I remember thinking, like, it always like tripped me up, because I'm like, yeah, God, like, of course I would be freaking out. Yeah. There's a storm, and you're in the boat, and you're asleep, and the storm is coming.
Yeah.
Like, I'm freaked out. Aren't you gonna get up? And I remember thinking about that, and I remember the Lord speaking to me and saying, like, you know, they missed out on something. Like, what did they miss out on? And they missed out on seeing God bring them through the storm. There was an opportunity to see God carry them through the storm. Because he was on the boat.
Wow.
Jesus was on the boat.
That's
And
wild.
It didn't matter if he was sleeping or awake. He was on the boat. He was with them.
Wow.
So there was an opportunity for them to go through the storm and watch Jesus carry them through the storm.
Wow.
But instead they panicked. And, you know, God gets them out, you know, the whole thing. But it's like, where was their faith? To see God carry them through. And so I think no matter how big the storm is, I mean, your storm could be anything, you know. Yeah. My storm has been a lot of different things in my life. More recently, our car being taken with all of our stuff. But I'm watching God carry us through it. Yeah. I've finally come to a place where I'm not freaking out about the storm. I'm just allowing Jesus to carry us through it because he's on the boat. Yeah. And so I think if I was to encourage anyone with anything is to not freak out about the storm. Come on. No matter what it is, he's on the boat. Trust that he's on the boat with you. Right. And that he will carry you through the storm. Come on. So.
Amen. And we'll be praying for you. And
thank you.
Yeah, and I don't know if I could, I mean, now you're career-wise, you've been a teacher and your husband. Yeah. And then now you guys have gotten teaching jobs in the Middle East. And you guys are now relocating
to the Middle East, yeah.
Your family with 3 kids to the Middle East to be full-time teachers out there, both of you. Which is very noble, and it's wild. It's cross-cultural. It's a whole thing.
It's really wild. We're excited. I'm excited to teach. I love those kids so much. This is our second time.
Right.
We were there before with our firstborn, and we've been back for 3 years, and you know, feel that charge to go back, and so we are, and we're excited. You know, sad we'll miss our friends, but we'll be back in the summer, so that'd be good.
Okay. I didn't know that.
Yeah, we'll be back in the summer.
Okay. Well, it's a little awkward with video now, but always in the end of our podcast, I always ask the guests just to pray for whoever's listening or whatever's on your heart. So maybe we could just do it looking at the camera rather than closing your eyes.
Hi.
Either one. Just go ahead and pray for them.
Yeah. Wow. Okay.
You can close your eyes too, whatever.
I don't know why I'm so used to closing my eyes.
I always close my eyes when I pray, but whatever you want to do.
Yeah, Lord, I pray for whoever is watching or listening. Lord, I pray that you would show yourself, make yourself more known, Lord, to whoever is listening, God, whatever they might be going through, whatever struggle or storm, or it could be a good season even. Lord, I pray that they would be more aware, God, that you would make them more aware of your presence, God, that you would make them more aware, Lord, of your very present help, God, that you are there, Lord, in every situation, no matter what it is, God, and that they can trust you. They can trust you, God. They can trust you through the storm, whatever that storm is, God, that they can call on you and you would be right there. And so, Lord, I just thank you for this time that I've had with a very good friend. And Lord, I thank you. I thank you for your presence, even here And now I thank you for your presence, Lord. I thank you that you are good and perfect in all of your ways, God, and that these things aren't just words. Like saying you're good and perfect aren't just words, but it's truth. It's truth, God. Your word is truth, Father. And may we know your truth, Father. And so, God, we love you and we thank you. And I thank you that you will lead us through the storm because you are on the boat. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. Thank you, Anna.
Of course.